The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production.
Kev, a few weeks ago, I was ready to put the thumb screws on you. I no longer need to, because we know the X-H2 is out. And actually, while we're recording this, the summit is officially announcing it.
It is. Right this particular second. It is now 2:18 p.m.
Could I put the thumb screws on you anyway, just for fun?
Yeah, of course you can. Ow!
So you've been using it then? You've had this toy in your hands, so to speak.
I did have it for a couple of days about, I don't know, 2 months ago. So it was a very early prototype.
Yeah.
That I was sent for a couple of days, and so it didn't have latest firmware or anything like that. No. But I have to say, even though, and I'll caveat this with, I still do not like the form factor.
I was about to ask you about that, yeah, but so that's covered.
I never have.
No.
And that's just me. Yeah. But I think there's a lot of people that will. It's got this new funky grip and everything. I've got to say, though, the performance is just out of this world.
You are very close to saying that you're going to shoot with them, aren't you?
Well, potentially. I mean, I can see this coupled with the X-T4 as being quite a combination. But, for kind of so I've got quite a bit of stuff coming up for the Great Run Company and all that kind of stuff, sports stuff. That's where it's going to be great for me.
Yeah.
I have to say that so there's going to be two models of the X-H2. So the one they've released today, or that announced today, is X-H2S, which I think it's a little bit confusing, even for my muddled brain, is one aimed at speed and kind of, it'll do 40 frames per second. Yeah. It'll do unlimited burst it's just an insane machine. It will do unlimited video.
So for the social photographers, this is probably the one they want, isn't it?
Yeah, my understanding is that the next one that they will potentially announce, and that I'm kind of going by this on the rumor mill, is going to be more aimed at will have a kind of bigger, larger sensor, that kind of thing. Hopefully, I think that's kind of ultimately what's happening. But this one, the one that's announced today, for all of those that have kind of flip-flopped between Fujifilm, Sony, this and that and whatever, and ultimately chasing the frames per second, then this might be a bit of a head turner for them. I took it up the stables. I stuck the face recognition on Albie and I shot about 80 frames, and it did not miss a beat, and he was kicking the ball up and down, throwing around.
Didn't miss one single shot of him.
The FujiCast.
It's amazing.
It's insane.
Oh, blimey. And he was in frame for every single one, was he? Or wasn't?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't actually looked through all of them, I have to say. But yeah, I mean, I've just chucked them into a Premiere Pro timeline and made a little film out of it, and it looks great. It's like a film.
What do you mean it's like a film? Oh, I suppose when you join it all together, yeah. Oh, well, there we go. The X-H2 at last. We have how many megapixels? I've got pox on the brain now. Oh God, the last thing you want. Megapixels. How many megawatts have we got there, Kev, on this one?
It's still 26. Right. Okay. 26.16 technically.
Right.
But it's it's a new processor and double speed processing and ISO brilliance, and it's got animal eye detection and human eye detection and all kinds of stuff.
And the grip that Mullins didn't want, but is gradually beginning to like.
Not so much the grip; it's the shutter button. I don't particularly like it on my GFX either. But there you go.
Well, look, welcome to the FujiCast. Here we are, another month. You and your questions from our electronic mailbag, and of course through the FujiCast private Facebook group that you're welcome to become a part of. If you want to send an email in, you send it to click@fujicast.co.uk. Facebook, of course, in the pinned post at the top. If you're not a Fujifilm shooter, don't fret. It's a big community, and whatever flavour you shoot, you're very, very welcome. This week,
on my guitar now.
You what? Oh, fret. Yeah, that's not that sort of fret. This week we have Kev's book of the week, or this month, the new Sandra Cattaneo Adorno one. Now she had it was a fantastic sort of it was a gold kind of finish to it, wasn't it? The Brazilian, the beaches book, wasn't it? Which was lovely.
This is a kind of similar kind of process, if you like, in terms of the editing and stuff, but it's a very different implementation. She's a very, very skilled photographer. We'll talk about it when we get to it.
I really like the idea as well that she sort of came to photography later on in life, but doesn't care two hoots for that. She's like, I've got lots to do. Let me just get on with it. Mm-hmm. And Glyn Dewis is our guest. Haven't you been on a few Glyn Dewis courses?
No, I don't think I have. But however, I have sat in many times. He's usually the top billing at these talks, camera clubs and things like that. And I'm usually kind of behind him. So yeah, I've been there and watched many of his stuff. He's a phenomenal photographer, but also an incredible kind of Adobe retoucher and everything. So is
he more retoucher these days than photographer, or is it 50-50? Or
well, you'll have to wait and see, because that's one of the questions I ask him.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Spoiler. Mm-hmm. So we probably have got some Patreon business to do. Then we'll talk about the upcoming live show, as a live show, and then we'll dig into your letters. Should we start with Patreon, though? Because we've got a few.
Yes, we shall indeed. Thank you so much for all three of you that have added to the Patreon list in the last month.
That's 3 more than we had last month, though, Kev.
Correct. Yes, although we have lost a couple. But there you go. Yes, no dramas. Scott Carney, Dave Boam, and Paul Berry. Thank you very, very much. Much obliged. Yeah. My kids are very happy. You probably just heard them walking in through my door because they're on half term.
They're on half term, aren't they? Yeah. What, will they come for money?
They probably come for money, something or other. Albie's just fallen off a slide or something. He just texted me. I winded myself.
Do you need to go and deal with it, Kev? Or
No. I said, get a grip. I'm going on the podcast.
There's parenting. Get a grip. Stop moaning.
He wouldn't have fallen off then, would he? If he got a grip properly?
That's true. Have we got any bump to the fronts? We have got a bump to the front, so we'll do that in a second from Michael Honkomp. But first of all, the As Live show, which is that next week now, Kev? Yeah, when this goes out, it's next week, Kev. Next
16th of June.
Don't panic. It is next week. Oh, my word. Hasn't that crept up quickly?
16th of June, yeah absolutely. Yeah, so there are still a few tickets available. In fact, there's I think we'll be fine for tickets. There are a handful of people who kind of purchase tickets, although it's free. When I say purchase, I mean went through the rigmarole of purchasing it and can no longer come. So there are still tickets available if you wish to come. 16th of June. You were right, you called this, by the way. We are going to do a photo walk in the morning. However, there may be 75 of us, so it might turn into some kind of political rally or
March,
something.
Yeah, look.
So we'll have to split up. So that's the plan in the morning, 11 o'clock-ish, at the House of Photography, of course, on Long Acre in London. And of course, the X-H2 will be available then for you to touch and try and maybe even pre-order, perhaps. Who knows? Along with the other stuff that they are, I believe, announcing today, which might be new lenses, zoom lenses, 120.
You will know by the time this goes out.
150 to 600. And I think, I'm hoping, I don't actually know this for sure, because obviously they're doing the X Summit right now, and so I can't watch that, otherwise we'll have a load of stuff going on in the background. But I'm really hoping that the new 56mm would have been added to the lens roadmap.
You know about this.
I don't. I swear I do not know.
Don't pretend you don't know.
I swear.
Thumb screws, please. Bring it over to Mullins.
I swear I do not know. And it's certainly not being announced today, but if it makes a roadmap, then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
If it makes a roadmap, that means it will be coming soon. And my little spidey senses tells me that it will be on the roadmap, and possibly also a new macro lens and also a very wide angle 7 or 8mm or something like that.
Well, I tell you what, you can get in line for the X-H2 when it comes to pre-ordering, because I've been talking about that for years.
You know what? So it's got it uses a SD card as well as a CF card. So the CF card will allow you to do your 6K video. It's unlimited video as well. It's just looks like it's got full-size HDMI as well. Woohoo! Finally, which is just going to be pretty impressive. Honestly, I think whether it's a camera I would use particularly that much, bearing in mind I don't want to use that term spray and pray at weddings, but some people shoot a lot more than I do, and that's absolutely fine. I think they're going to look at this and think, my God, I can just click on face detection, or at some weddings, animal detection.
Well, yeah, but then,
and just
press
the button and watch.
It's not about necessarily the spray and pray thing. It's the whole new sensor, isn't it? The technology of the autofocus as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like I said, I only had basically about 48 hours or so with it, and I couldn't take it to a wedding. Actually, it did fall over a wedding that I had, but unfortunately, the wedding was for another wedding photographer, and a lot of the guests at the wedding were other photographers, so I couldn't exactly pull this thing out at a wedding. Not that I really like using early prototypes at weddings. Anyway, look, so I do have, it's just come up because it's just been announced. So I will just run through it. So CMOS 5 HS is the new sensor. Sensor inherits the previous model's back illuminated style, but also adopts the stacked layer. So it's a stacked sensor, first time to become the first stacked APS-C sensor capable of quadrupling. Do you know what's quadrupling in numbers? Do you know how many that is?
2 ducks and a sunbed in Mallorca.
We'll
I've
call
no
it 4.
idea, Kev.
Quadrupling the speed, so 4 times.
4 times. Sorry, yeah. I thought you were doing something more complicated than that. Yeah, I could have said 4 times. Yeah,
4 times faster than the current model, which of course is the X-H2.
I thought you were trying to add up the actual. I was thinking, well, I don't know the megapixels as they are.
All right, so it includes up to 40 frames per second blackout-free burst mode.
Amazing.
Significantly better AF rate during continuous shooting. As for video performance, the sensor can record as 4K 60p video without cropping. Ooh, that's good.
That is
and substantially reduced rolling shutter effect.
I thought rolling shutter was negligible, to say.
Yeah, I mean it still existed, didn't it? But it has been getting a lot better. Yeah, and the stack sensor will kind of deal with that, I think. The use of AI processor, and there you go. All these people who've been saying, "Oh, mobile phones got AI." Well, no, your X-H2S has got AI in it as well. Processor enables subject detection, AF tracking a targeted subject with increased accuracy in video. The processor enables filming 4:2:2 10-bit video at 6.2K 30p and 120p 4K, and supports a variety of codecs, including Apple ProRes. There we go.
Can I make you a cup of tea in the morning?
Yeah, it might make you a cup of tea in the morning, yeah.
It's getting very close to that thing that you wanted, Kev, that actually edits your stuff as you go along. Uploads in, it's ready to give to the clients within 10 minutes of shooting the shot. Yeah,
it looks amazing, I have to say. And I have to say, when I did use it, I was staggered by the capabilities of it. I didn't do any filming, didn't really do much more other than just point it at Albie and the horses and some people at judo, and you see what happened. Anyway, back to the point. At the House of Photography, you will be able to get your hands on that thing, and we will have the live recording in the afternoon. And thereafter, for those that wish, we'll be able to come along to a pub. I haven't been able to, so the last time we did this is actually
we booked a room. It was literally with a week or two to go till we were told to stay inside, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. But I haven't been able to book a room. So what we'll do is, I think we'll probably go to the same place, which was the O'Neill's.
They'll never let 75 of us in, Kev.
No, exactly. That's what they said. When they said, how many might it be? I said 75. They said, oh, right, okay, so you can book the whole upstairs and that will cost.
Oh, I see, right, okay.
So I said, yeah, but then maybe a lot of them might not come. Yeah. And she said, well, why don't you just turn up? I was like, there we go. Oh, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, we'll just turn up. So that will happen, and we will also have, of course, FujiCast Got Talent.
Yeah. Have we got anybody that's put themselves forward for that yet?
Yeah, we've had 4 or 5.
Oh, good.
So you do have a little bit longer. So this episode will be airing today, which is Monday, the
6th
of June. So we will have to do it. You've got a couple of days, basically, because I need to give the people who win time to prepare their presentation.
Yeah.
So if you fancy a stint, we're going to do 10, 15 minutes. 2 people will get the opportunity to stand up in front of us at the House of Photography, and more importantly, stand up in front of the King Andreas and all of his princes and princesses, and show us some of your work, talk to us. Doesn't have to be about anything specific, wedding street, personal work, whatever, does not matter. The only way we can facilitate this, though, is by the Facebook group. There is a thread where you can put your kind of synopsis in, and then we will, sometime this week, do a little poll on Facebook where people can say, I want to listen to that one, I want to listen to that one. And we'll pick the top 2.
I'm still a little bit concerned about the photo walk in the morning. What time is that happening, by the way?
Around 11.
Around 11.
Don't be concerned.
Well, no, the only thing that concerns me is because, it'll be like the playground of old, really, when you had 2 football teams and people were deciding who they wanted to go with. It's going to be Kev's team all the way. You're going to have 70. You're going to have 74, Kev, and I'll have one person who feels sorry for me.
Denver Aubrey has kindly put his hand up to take a group, and we'll basically split it up. Right. It will be fine, and it's literally a photo walk. It's nothing. There's no it's not a workshop or anything like that. Just a little trot around for an hour or so to take some pictures in a group and not get arrested.
Bring your placards. Right, should we do a bump to the front?
Oh, do you know what H stands for?
No, I don't.
Indeed, X-H1. I would have just read this. It stands for heavy duty.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, heavy duty.
Oh, okay.
Heavy.
Why is it? I don't understand why it's any heavier duty than a T in terms of the workings of the camera. Well, I do now, because the X-H2 has been...
That's
sort
what
of...
they said. Yeah, that's what they're saying on the X Summit. On the last X Summit, I was on it. This X Summit, I'm on podcast. Things have changed.
Yeah. How the mighty fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's unfair.
I'm sorry.
But you know what? I got a bad foot as well, right?
Oh, have you?
And I went to... I keep getting this bad foot. After I shoot weddings, this
is not the gouty foot, is it? Is this the gouty foot?
It can't be gout because I've just had nothing to have. I just haven't had anything bad.
You've given up cheese, you've given up beer, wine. There's no gouty foods left for you.
It seems to be after every wedding. I figured it must be either the way I'm driving or my shoes. So I hobbled along to Clark's this morning.
Oh, you're in the Clark shoes now.
And they go, this 4-year-old girl was working behind the counter, and he said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have to measure your feet."
Oh, like
okay.
They used to when you were a kid.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought, okay, fine. So they do it with this funny thing now, it's an electrical thing.
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh yes, yeah, you've got a special right foot."
Were they her actual words?
Yeah. I was like, "A special right foot." She said,
right foot.
She was like, "Yeah. It's
what we call wedding photographer's foot."
Not the same as the left foot. I was like, right, okay, brilliant. Yeah, so I'll just add that to my list of things that are falling off and breaking.
So have you had to pre-order your shoes now? Are they specially sent off for?
No. It's not that bad. She went downstairs and dusted off the special shoes. So I bought a 20 quid pair of.
Have you got the ones? Is it the one
foot slightly different shaped?
Is it the ones with the white the sort of the white heel around them?
No, these are posh shoes. I'm gonna have to wear them to weddings.
No. Yeah, but I bought Clark's. I've gone back to Clark's for weddings. Yeah, I've gone back to sensible shoes.
Yeah.
Anybody in America is now thinking, what are they talking about? Clark's is like an institution. When you were a kid, everybody got shoes from Clark's. We probably should do a photo question though, shouldn't we? Michael Hong Kong.
We had something else to talk about first, didn't we? I can't remember what it was.
Well, that was it. We've done the meetup. Okay. We've done the welcome aboard patrons, and now we should do a bump to the front.
All right, and I will keep an eye on the X Summit in case anything else comes up.
Michael Hong Kong. Hey there, gents. I was just listening to episode 224, and I had a question on the discussion of P mode. While maybe this is obvious, I thought I'd still ask in case I am missing something. While most brands do have a P mode actually on the dial, most Fujifilm cameras don't. My new XE4 does, and it works really well. When you say P mode, does that simply translate to having ISO, he calls it aperitifs, and shutter speed to A, and then have your auto ISO set up to your preference and set the appropriate metering mode?
So P mode basically means everything in auto. So on some of the cameras, there is the ones that have a PASM dial, there is a P.
Yes.
All right, but on things like the X Pro 2 and the X100, there is no.
Oh, that's
there's no
yes.
Yeah. So you have to set the aperture ring to A, the ISO to auto, shutter speed to A, and then you are in P mode.
But it works.
Or A mode, as I like to call it in Fujifilm world.
So I quite like the PASM dial.
Oh no.
No.
One of the things that drew a lot of us to Fujifilm was that tactile nature of it. And so I will put my hand up and say, I don't like the PASM dial on all of the... I don't mind it. I can see why it works on things like the XT20, the kind of X-H and all of that kind of stuff. But no, don't. If they ever came out with an X100 or X Pro or XE or something like that that didn't have the ability to control all three of those things at the touch of a single thumb movement, I would be one very unhappy XX photographer.
Oh, then you wouldn't want to see that. You sound like the Incredible Hulk there.
I would say it's funny. I would say somebody said to me, "Imagine if they brought you back and then you left again. You'd be a XXX photographer."
Oh, Kev, you're going back. I know you are. You're going to be like Tina Turner. You'll have more comebacks than Tina Turner, and she had a few comeback tours. I remember going on one of hers, probably about 30 years ago, and she's still been having them since. Hasn't she?
Yeah, I
Tina
saw her
Turner.
once. Very good.
Great concert. Right, okay, questions. Go for the Facebook.
Okay, Martin Ellard. This is 1 week ago. No, I have to do the thing. Sorry. The one from the most recent one on the post on the thread is 3 days ago. John Almonte.
Oh, poor Martin Ellard was just about to get his question read out.
We'll get to him. He's the next previous one.
Sorry, Martin.
On the X-H2 ISO dial, we can use A for either auto ISO or use the command dial. I like to use both often, but it can be tedious to have to go through the menu to switch it back and forth. I don't think I'll ever use H. Would it be hard for Fujifilm to do a firmware update to have the H have an option to be set to use the command dial for changing ISO?
I think I use it the same way.
Can you not change the ISO on command dial then without going back into the menu and change the settings?
You probably can, but I don't.
No, well, he's saying you can't, and I don't use it, so I don't know. However, John, I'm fairly sure the answer probably will be X-H2S.
Yes, it will be yes. It will be. Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. That's something to perhaps, if you are, I'm not sure if John is at the House of Photography, but you can ask Andrea.
Try it. James Sauls, good morning. Well, it could be afternoon or evening. Hope you're both well. I wanted to ask about this year in terms of bookings for weddings. This is my first non-lockdown year at trying to be a full wedding photographer. 6 weeks ago, I had the year wrapped up in terms of the minimum number of bookings needed. Then a wave of cancellations came in. 4 in 6 weeks. 3 people could sadly no longer afford to get married, and there was 1 breakup. My word, you're a bit unlucky, James. Which doesn't make you feel any better, I realise that. These cancellations prompted me to email all my bookings this year just to touch base. A couple of the bookings over the year are COVID movers, so they've been around for a while, and we've not spoken. All the replies now in, and I've uncovered 2 more weddings that have cancelled some time ago, but the couples hadn't actually told me. I live in a different world in terms of price and quality of my work versus you two. Absolute legends, he says. I don't know, James, about that. I'm Division 3. No, you're not. But are you seeing issues like this yourselves? I'm not sure if I now need to push out discounts to try and fill these gaps, or if it's normal that at the end of April you've still not filled up the year in terms of weddings. Well, on the last point, by the way, if it's normal at the end of April, I know we're coming up to June now, so this question's been in the box for a month. I apologise. But on the last two, and I'm sure on the last question rather, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, Kev, that no longer is it you have to have everything booked 12 months to 18 months in advance to know what you're going to be as a wedding photographer, because people are now doing it 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 4 months in advance, aren't they? Mm-hmm. That landscape of photography and that sort of booking mechanism that used to exist is no longer the same, is it?
No, and also, first of all, I just wanted to say, James, you're certainly not Division 3, because James second shot for me once and he made amazing pictures. So, yes, I don't know. I have not struggled with that cancellation problem, I have to say.
Yeah. I think you're just unlucky, James, on this one. I don't think you'll probably ever have that again.
No, I wouldn't say so. Without sounding too dismissive, I think, there might be a price element of things going on here in terms of, if I don't know what James charges, by the way, but let's just say it's nearer the bottom end of the market in terms of pricing, then you're less likely, if people do cancel, they're less likely to kind of call you and tell you, because perhaps the deposit has been so low and all that kind of stuff might just go away from their mind. Yeah. If it's bigger numbers, then obviously they'll be more interested in getting deposit back and all that kind of stuff. But no issues, no real issues. But you're right, Neil, that we are getting inquiries for, I had one last week that was for the 22nd of June.
Yeah, it's not unusual, is it?
No. So yeah, that's happening quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, COVID has turned everything upside down, hasn't it?
Yeah, very much. I know this isn't what James asked, but just in case it interests anybody with regard cancellations, what's your policy, Kev, if somebody does cancel within the time that you could actually claim the entire amount of the wedding fee?
Yeah, so my policy has always been if you cancel within 90 days of the wedding itself, then you have to pay me the full amount. And then it kind of tiers down from there. So 120 days, I think, is 80%, et cetera, et cetera. But that said, I'm lucky enough to not have had to kind of get into that case. Yeah. I have had some people who've cancelled after paying the deposit, and none of them have asked for the deposit back. So, yeah, I just haven't been in that situation, luckily.
Isn't there the case that, is it 18 months ago that we went through this thing where the wedding industry was heavily quizzed about the cancellation policies that it has?
Yeah, so that was the COVID thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So the, what they call the Competitions and Marketing Authority.
That's it. Yeah.
They took one of the very well-known venues to court, or not to court, but kind of investigated it. They weren't giving their deposits back, and then they drew a line and said, no, if you're a wedding supplier, not just a venue, if you're a wedding supplier, you actually do have to give the deposit back, apart from the equivalent in terms of money for time spent. So yeah, deposits don't really mean much in the UK at the moment. So for example, if somebody emails me today and says, can we book? And I say, yeah. And they say, how do we do it? I say, send me 200 quid. And they say, great, we've just sent it to you. And then I say, thanks, you're booked. And then they ring up and they say, can we cancel? I say, yeah, but you can't have your deposit back. They're going to say, no, I can, because all you did was reply to 2 emails, and that's not worth £200. And of course, if somebody does cancel within 3 months, I've always said this, if somebody calls me the day before a wedding and says, look, somebody's unwell, or we've had a flood or whatever, and we're not getting married, then I'm not going to stand there and say, oh, you owe me all the money. I'm going to be a little bit sympathetic about it.
Well, you've got to show empathy, haven't you?
Yeah, but if they ring up and say wedding's off because the groom ran off with a stripper in Belarus or something, then on his stag, then I'll be like, yeah, okay, I'll have my money, please.
What on earth was he doing in that country for his stag party?
Belarus wasn't a good choice, was it?
No, probably not. But I actually did have that happen. He hadn't gone off with a stripper in Belarus, I hasten to add, but I had a situation where a groom cancelled with a few days to go because he had found somebody else. Now, I went straight in for the you owe me all the money thing, and he threatened me with court action. And
what did you do? Just let it go, just for the sake of peace of mind?
He was a lawyer, so I thought, I'm not fighting this one. Life is too short, I felt, at that particular moment. And he seemed to be quite an angry man. And I thought, do you really want to get into an argument with a man like this?
I hope he's not listening.
Well, I didn't say his name.
No, true. Absolutely. You've got to read the room, haven't you? You've got to make a call at the time. But yes, quite right. Luckily, it's not happened to me. Fingers crossed. Right. Touching wood.
Okay. Before we get ourselves in any more trouble, back to Facebook. Do we get Martin Ellard now?
No, he's the next one.
This can be for the whole show. No, he's the next one.
And Estonia. What else have you done to help out at our wedding that is not photography related?
All right.
Just had a lovely quote back from a bride where I'd completely forgotten I'd fixed the radiator in the bride's mum's room.
What? That's above and beyond. That's fantastic. That really is.
God.
Plumbing.
Fix the radiator. I can't even do my own shoes up, my special right shoe anyway, let alone fix a radiator.
I tell you what, if you need to do plumbing, you'd have to take Gemma along, because she is the practical person in your relationship.
I can't do anything.
She's built all your tables, everything.
She does everything. I'm useless. Although she did, in fairness, we'll get to the question in a second. She did remind me that when we were in our practice marriages, and I was in the spare room at her practice marriage house, I did rewire the lights in the ceiling.
Was that what caused the fire?
She was like, "Do you remember doing that?" I was like, "No." Were you just trying to impress me? I didn't do it. It wasn't me. I've always had this idea that if you do something that you don't like really bad at the beginning, they don't ask again.
Oh, I see. That was your right. Well, Sam mended the U-bend the other day, and the waste pipe in the upstairs loo.
Nice.
I know. And I looked at it, I thought, I'll get a plumber in, but she said, I'll do that. And it was all done within half an hour.
I got a plumbing story as well. So because of our kids, it's a horrible story, really. Our loo lid is broke, it's kind of come flying off. So we bought a new loo lid, and Gemma couldn't get the old connection off. It's been there for like 15 years. We got a plumber guy came in. He got his hacksaw, not hacksaw, and then has cut all his stuff off, threw the bits of rusty bolts and stuff like that in the bath. He went, "There you go, mate, no charge. I'll let you fit the seat." I was like, "What? What did that mean? What do you mean fit the seat?"
Oh, Kev, you must have fitted. I mean, I fitted a loo seat. You did it. Good.
I did it. Yeah. Good. I did it. I did it wrong, but I did it. It's on upside down.
It's on upside down. Right. So, come on then. What have you done the wedding that's above and beyond what you've been hired to do? This could go for any job, couldn't it, really? If you turned up as a portrait photographer or an event photographer or a sports photographer even. What have you done?
Well, I've done CPR.
Have you?
Yeah, it didn't work, did it? That old lady.
Oh, I didn't realise that you practiced CPR on her.
Yeah, I mean, there was a vet there. We told that story before. So, I did recently at that place that we work at a lot, both of us.
Wazing.
The bride was at that little cottage that's in the middle of nowhere.
Kit's Cottage.
Kit's Cottage.
Yeah. Nice place.
And I'd had to ask you how to get there, I think, because I had no idea how to get there. And when she said, and the mum said, actually, do you know how to get to the venue from here? I was like, yeah, I do, because I've just come from there. She's like, right, okay, well, we'll follow you, and also can we fill your car up with suitcases and stuff, and can you take the makeup artist and all that kind of stuff? So yeah, I did kind of, and then I was like, oh God, I hope I know the way. I don't want to take the entire wedding party to the wrong place.
But you didn't though, did you? You got it right.
Good. I did go there, yeah. So yeah,
well, I think your CPR is amazing, although it didn't work. But
no,
it was.
I wouldn't do much more. I wouldn't some people take like knitting needles and stuff to fix dresses.
Oh, I do that. I don't. It's not to fix dresses. That's the crochet needle, so that they can pull across the fastenings on wedding dresses at the back.
No, if I touch it, it will just turn to dust.
Oh, I don't do it. I just say, look, I've got one of these. And then I pass it over. I would never attempt to do it. No,
I don't. Even when they ask me which side does the flower go, I say, don't ask me, because I might get it wrong.
What side?
And then they'll all look stupid.
No, surely you know what side the flowers go.
Well, okay, yes, technically I do, but you have to be 2022, don't you? I did once have a situation where
I see what you mean.
I suggested that, and he said, no, I want to wear mine on the right-hand side because I'm a bridesmaid or a bridesman or whatever. So I just decided from then on to not say anything.
Not say anything.
Yeah.
I've been a wedding car. In fact, I found the picture the other day. It was in Salisbury. I can't remember if the car didn't work or didn't turn up, so I was the wedding car. Fortunately, the car was washed the day before.
Nice.
Normally it's just got, stuff all in it, like, McDonald's hamburger wrappings and stuff like that.
Yeah, I did have to apologise to the makeup artist before she got in. I'm sorry. We've got dogs and kids and all kinds of stuff. I'm sorry. We'll see.
Right, we've got more questions to come, but I know we started off with lots of information about the X-H2 and the special event next week, which will, of course, be recording. That will be it's either going to be an extra edition, Kev, or just part of a really long edition the month after. And we also talked about patrons, so I think we should probably pop into our interview. Tell me about Glyn Dewis.
Glyn is a remarkable, really nice chap, first and foremost. Really interesting story, very, very good photographer, amazing YouTube channel. He's one of those people, I think I say this in the interview, is that, his YouTube channel, it's actually useful. It's not just, it's not just look at me making a cup of coffee or anything. It's actually every single thing is something you learn. You get straight to the point. Here we go. Here's something I know that you don't, and then you know it. And that's it. So yeah, but a very good photographer too. And he did this amazing series with veterans, which we talked about too.
This is Glyn Dewis.
Glyn, welcome to the FujiCast.
Thank you very much for inviting me on.
Oh, no worries. I'm glad to have you on here because, as I was saying to Neil earlier, that our paths always seem to cross at photo shows and things like that. So I thought, no, we must get Glyn on at some point. Everybody, a lot of people will have heard of you, will have seen you, certainly from your YouTube channel and all of that good stuff. But one thing I want to kind of get going with, and I always ask this to the guests, is hey, what's your story? When did you get into photography? How did that all kind of come about?
God, it's a good question. It's one that every time I get asked that, you kind of scratch your head thinking, how long ago was it? Because I don't know about you, but as I'm getting older, time seems to go quicker. But I'm going to throw a number out now, which I think is fairly accurate. It must be 14 years, 15 years, maybe something like that. And as for the photography, never intended to be a photographer at all. It just wasn't my thing. I was working in Photoshop a lot. I was doing a lot of stuff. That all happened very quickly for me, picking up Photoshop and kind of running with it. And before you know it, I'm starting to work for clients, and I picked up an agency that wanted to give me work for BBC and for Sky, and it all went really, really swimmingly. Then I got kind of noticed by some folks in America. That kind of kicked off. And then eventually, I think how long ago? Probably about 8 years ago now, I guess it would have been, when I did my first book. So I pitched an idea to a publishers when we were out in America. They liked it and kind of ran with it. And that was a book that was predominantly all about Photoshop. And that for me was kind of like a line in the sand of where I thought, right, from now on, now that book's out, I don't want to be just known as the guy that does Photoshop. Because for me, it kind of felt that I don't know. I kind of felt that was maybe limiting myself for longevity in the industry, and I wanted to be. I want to, I'm in this for the long haul.
Yeah.
And I was kind of seeing companies coming out with some fantastic third-party plugins, which for most people was enough. It was getting them where they wanted to be. So I was thinking, I can't just base my whole business on Photoshop. So then I kind of just thought, right, I'll get the camera and I'll start to do some stuff with the camera, and it was all picking up stuff that I was just, learning along the way. And then it just seemed to take off, to be honest with you. I then moved away from just being the Photoshop guy to then into the photography. And here we are today, really. A lot's happened.
What was that original book then? The first one you did? You've done several, obviously.
That was the Photoshop workbook. And it was all kind of mainly to do with compositing, because that was my thing at the time. It was doing all these, literally taking a photograph and then spending hours, and I mean hours, on a picture, and layer upon layer upon layer. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it, absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great, I learned so much doing it, which I still kind of use a lot of it today in some ways with the pictures that I'm doing. But yeah, that's kind of what I did then. And it seems like a whole world away that does now, doing all the compositing. It really does.
I think that we will discuss it in a little while about kind of AI and all of that and how things are changing. But so let's just get this right. If you, I'm not sure if you have to do this on passports anymore, but if you had to put a job title down on your passport, what would you put?
And again, you're getting some curveballs in here quick, aren't you? What do you say? Because me and Dave were talking about this. My mate Dave Clayton, I think you know Dave anyway, but we were talking about this the other day because Dave's recently redesigned my logo. I felt like I needed a logo because things have drastically changed for me since COVID kicked in a good way, and I wanted a logo that reflected it. So then I'm sort of saying to Dave, well, what do I put on the business card? What do I say is my title? Because if I just say photographer, well, it's not just photography. That seemed really limiting, because I'm now doing photography. I'm doing a lot of video stuff. I'm just, there's all sorts of stuff that I'm doing. You know what I mean? It's
tough, isn't it?
It's really tough. So there is obviously that phrase that goes out there now, content creator.
Yeah. But
that just seems a little bit, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable saying, hi, I'm a content creator. It's like, well, what the hell does that mean? Do you know what I mean? It's, I guess you'd have to tailor make it to the audience. So whoever I was speaking to, if it was, I don't know, if somebody like my mom said to me, what do you do? I'd say photographer. Yeah. Because if I say anything else, that's going to lead to a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
If I was speaking to somebody like yesterday, I was down on North Devon on the coast, Hartland Quay, flying my drone, and a young couple came past, and they actually said to me, what do you do? Because they realized it wasn't just me there playing with it. I was actually doing some stuff for a video. And I said, I'm a photographer, but I'm a YouTuber as well. Do you know what I mean? So you kind of tailor make it to the audience, because then they straight away knew what YouTube was and what a YouTuber kind of thing is. And they said, what's your YouTube handle? What's your address of the channel that you've got? And that was easy. So as much as I'd love to tell you, I am this, Kevin, I can't. It's a difficult one.
But that's good. But, I think it's great because you are, if I look at the headings on your website, you've got very specific kind of titles, it's the back page, all that kind of stuff. Books, gear, blog, YouTube. And I think, when you said that about YouTube, then that kind of reminded me, and I was saying this to Neil earlier, that there's only a handful of YouTube channels that I watch regularly where I know that every time there's a video put on there, I'm just going to go in, the presenter is going to say, this is what I know, and this is what you're going to know in the next 10, 15 minutes. Thank you very much. Off you go. There's no fluff. It is a proper educational stuff, which is absolutely amazing. And cool. You got to be, you've got one extra subscriber from those people in North Devon, but you're up to what, 230,000 subscribers on YouTube?
It's kind of, I think it's 211. You've been really generous. I think it's 211. I think we're on now, but that has grown more in the last 6 months than it has in the last 18 months to 2 years, because I've really started to prioritize it. And I'm hoping in a way that a lot of people will see a difference in how the videos are being done now, because I want to make them not just educational. It's great that you say they are, that you get what you want from them, but I want them to have a certain me about them, a certain style about them. I never wanted to do a video that went, hello, today I'm going to show you this. and then away you go. It's like, oh, I'd rather watch paint dry. I want something that's going to grab your attention, and then you're going to watch it. And that's hopefully kind of starting to happen now with the way I'm doing them very differently. So, and I'm loving doing them, mate. It's a real buzz doing them.
Is that partly because of the move to Devon and your location now and the environment you've got around you? Does that help with these videos?
It definitely helps. And as daft as it might sound, because I know that a lot of people have really struggled over the last 2 years with all the restrictions we've lived under, but it's also been motivated by the last 2 years, because the last 2 years, dare I say it, has actually done me a favor. It's given me a proper good kick up the rear. It really has, because although I always feel I need to be doing something, that before COVID came along, that something had to be portrait orientated. And if I didn't have a portrait to take, the camera was in the bag, and that's where it stayed. And I'd have to think of other things to do within Photoshop, and just so I was doing something. COVID has made me see the world completely differently. It's made me realize, as crazy as it sounds and as obvious it sounds to everybody else that's probably listening, it made me realize that my camera can be used for other things. And just because I do those other things doesn't mean to say I want to specialize in them. I'm doing them because I enjoy doing them.
Yeah.
And I'm doing landscape, seascape, macro, time lapse. I'm genuinely loving doing what I do. And the majority of it, 95% of what I do, is for me and the content I produce, which I share.
Yeah.
And I just love it.
And you can tell that, I think it's great. There's like an effervescence in your voice when you talk about it, which is wonderful. And, isn't it a lovely, without kind of belittling it in any way, but isn't it a lovely life to be able to essentially, make a living out of doing the stuff you absolutely love?
It totally is. Yeah.
Content,
It totally is. But as you know, that doesn't come easy.
No.
Do you know what I mean? And I like to be, I kind of base my whole, my whole business, my whole me that people get to know, I base that on honesty and being like, there's no stage me, there's just me. Do you know what I mean? And although it might look sometimes on social media that, oh, you're so lucky you live down there, there's no luck involved. It took us a long time to get here, a lot of hard work to get here. And I still have those times when I worry, I stress, all those things are still there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I do. You're right. It is great to be able to do something that you genuinely love doing as your job, if you like.
Yeah, and I think when you mention that about hard work, is that's obvious for when you look at your output, and everybody we speak to on the podcast, and probably most professional photographers. But I do occasionally come across people who are like, I wish I was an ambassador. I wish I could do YouTubes and basically they can. But you're right, they have to put the hard yards in first. And
absolutely, yeah. And it's funny you should mention that word ambassador there. That's one of those words that sends a shudder down my spine. It's kind of like it's overused. I think the sort of the clout that being an ambassador, that word had, I think, has gone, because there's so many people who now are ambassadors. And don't get me wrong, I'm not putting it down. Yeah. I just think they should change the word. Yeah. Because I think it's being used so much, it's watered down what an ambassador is. It's like the word passionate. Do you know what I mean? That's a word that used to make me really shudder, but you're passionate about what you do. You wouldn't be able to do it to the quality that you do if you weren't. But there needs to be a different word. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what that word would be, but it just needs to be described differently.
I always say about ambassador stuff that because obviously I think you're an ambassador for certain things, and I am as well. But I always say that it shouldn't be a ambition. Your ambition should not be to be an ambassador. It should be a reward.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what else, mate? It's funny you should say that. Another not ambition, but something, a goal in your head, or a kind of like a thing that you kind of say to yourself is that never approach a company, because and that's something that, because I obviously, although I'm on your podcast here, I'm a Sony shooter, but I never ever approach Sony. And it was, although I could have done so many times, I never wanted to, because I wanted them to notice me from my activity and them to come to me, never for me to go to them. Yep. And that's always been the same with every company that I'm associated with. Yeah. I wanted them to approach me. Do you know what I mean? And I think that does happen. It might not happen as quick as you want it to, but if you're consistently producing content and you're out there, you will get noticed.
I've got two little things I've written down here. One of them is I want to talk. One of the best titles of a book that you did. One of the best titles of any book that I have this book. Photograph Like a Thief.
Yeah,
I love it. I just love it. I love the cover. I don't know whether it was Dave that did the cover or not. Whether it was
I can't take credit for the title or the cover. That was the cover was designed by Dave. It's he stole a idea by a designer I believe called Sol Bass. That goes back to his particular style. And the title came when I was doing a Zoom chat with the publishers, and when I was telling them what the idea was of the book. And then Ted Waite, who works at Rocky Nook, said, so it's kind of like photographing, but you're nicking the ideas, like photographing like a thief, isn't it, really? I went, there you go.
Okay, so going back to the photography element of things, I think probably one of the most, I don't know whether it's, it's important to a lot of people, whether it's the most important thing you've done perhaps recently is the 3945 Portraits project.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know that work, why don't you explain it?
Yeah, 39 to 45 is obviously the years of World War II. That's what I call the project. And it's basically started out as me wanting to do something. It was a personal project. It never intended to grow the way it did, but it was purely my way of giving back and saying thank you to the veterans for what they did. Because every Remembrance Day, saying thank you never seemed enough to me. So I kind of thought, what can I do? And as photographers and what have you, then, we've got the gift of having a camera and creating stuff with it. So my idea was to photograph veterans in a classic, timeless kind of way, and then to be able to present that veteran with that portrait that then can remain in the family for generations to come. Because as we know, photographs are massively important. It's so much more than just taking a click and putting it on social media. So that was my way of saying thank you. So I didn't know any veterans at the time because my granddad had passed some, 30 plus years prior to me even thinking about this. And I wasn't doing this then anyway. So I approached a group called the Normandy Veterans Family and Friends, which I found on Facebook, introduced myself, wanting to meet veterans and kind of explain what I wanted to do. And a couple of people, I wouldn't say trusted me, they kind of tested me out. Mm-hmm. Do I do what I'm saying I'm going to do? How do I deal with veterans? Am I courteous? Am I respectful? And all that kind of stuff. And thankfully they saw that what I was doing was genuine. I genuinely wanted to do it. And from then it just kind of took off. It really did take off. And it's been a heck of a journey. It really, really has. It has been, I don't mean to sound corny, but it has been the best thing I have ever done, not just in my career as a photographer, content creator, whatever. It's the best thing I've ever done in my life. I have had such an emotional journey doing it. It's just been the best. It really has been the best thing I've ever done, projects wise. And just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I've met some incredible people, made some incredible friends. And, it ended up with me having an exhibition. We were going to have more, but obviously then COVID hit. So that's got to kind of restart again. We made the news. And only yesterday, I got contacted by National Geographic, who've asked for one of the portraits. And they've said that they want to speak about doing a feature in National Geographic about the project. It's like, wow.
Yeah,
so
that's incredible.
And that whole project, like I said, it was a personal thing, never with the intention of what can I get from this. It was genuinely, what can I do?
Yeah.
And it's that old saying of if you give enough out, stuff comes back, but you should never give it out expecting it to come back.
Yeah.
If you are real true to your word, you're being genuine and honest about what you're doing, good things will happen.
And what I love about, the pictures are absolutely beautiful. Anybody listening must go to your website and look at the images that are on there. Obviously the style of the images are very sympathetic, if you like, but they're so beautifully photographed and so beautifully edited. But I also like the fact that, occasionally when you send out your newsletters, of which I'm a subscriber, you give updates. you kind of say, such and such who was in the photo story, and some of them sadly have passed away, and all of this stuff. It's like an ongoing series. And is it finished? Will you take?
Not at all, mate. No, it's definitely not finished. COVID really did put a handbrake on it. It really did, because the actual exhibition started in November 19. and ran through to January 2020. And that was at the Soldiers of Oxford Museum in Woodstock, which in May, it was just fantastic, that was. And then all of a sudden, March hits, bang. And there were so many veterans that I'd intended to, that were in the diary, if you like, that I was going to travel to and photograph, that I never got to do it. And sadly, the last two years or however long it is now, I've lost track, has been really unkind to our veterans. We've lost so many. But it is still ongoing. It's not got the same pace as what it had back at the beginning of 2020, because I've moved, priorities have kind of had to kick in, and I'm working on a lot of other things as well, but I am still doing the portraits, and I have taken a couple of veterans portraits down here so far.
And Glyn Dewis returns shortly. In the meantime, whilst we've been recording the show in kind of live time, we can make an announcement that you will know about now, but it's one you're very excited about, Kev.
Yeah, so they have announced the lens roadmap stuff, and 56mm f1.2 Mark II is on there, along with the 30mm 2.8 macro. What if that's 1-to-1 macro? And then 8mm 3.5. 8mm, my word. You'd be able to see my eyebrows and my feet at the same time. Both my feet, my wide foot and my special foot.
It's not that good.
Yes, not that wide. So the 56 is the one that interests a lot of people, I think. And I was concerned not concerned, but I had an inkling that that there would be a 56 Mark II, but I thought it might be an f1.4. But it's not. It's a 1.2. And if that is at the same kind of performance levels as the new 18mm and the new 23mm and the new 33mm, then that is going to be like the best news of the day for me.
What two lenses now would you take? Yes, we're talking about weddings with you, but it could be street and stuff like that as well. What two lenses would you, if you could only take two lenses out now, Kev, what would they be?
So at the moment, it would be the 18mm, the new 18mm, and the 50mm f1 that I still have on loan. But it's big and heavy, and it's not. It's a fantastic lens. It's incredible. It does see in the dark. But the reason why I use that is because my 56mm, my existing 56mm 1.2, has got some little problems with it.
Oh,
so I've got this 50mm on loan for a time until that 56mm comes out. But because it's on the lens roadmap, that doesn't say when it will be. No. So I have to.
But your normal choice would be now 18 and 56 if it's...
Oh, yeah. If that 56mm 1.2 was in existence right now, it would be the 18mm and 56. I'd throw everything else in the bin. I don't need anything else.
What? Can you send it to me then, please?
Get rid of it.
I am the home for disused lenses. Well, I've got a couple in here now. Still got the 60, which I like. You don't need any of these back yet because you want to throw them in the bin.
Yeah, so I will actually need... So one of the things I'm doing is taking pictures of all of my cameras. Right. I've been putting them on Instagram.
Oh, do you need 60s?
I will need it at some point because I will do the lenses as well. Although it's not that important because I have sold some over the years. Okay. Right. But yes, and I've been enjoying that. Like I put a picture of my original X100 up, and I had more likes on Instagram than any of my wedding pictures ever.
No,
it's a battered up old camera.
We got a letter, Kev.
Hey, a real letter.
A real letter. It came in from. It's from. Where's ME? ME is that Maine?
ME.
Oh look, all the American listeners now shouting out. What? Don't you know? Honestly, get with it.
According to the internet, it is Maine.
It is Maine, right? Okay.
Didn't they call it MA? Oh, maybe that's Massachusetts.
Anyway, it came from John Bald, and he sent a nice card, and it's got. Here we go. We got the foreground is daisies, and in the background a house, and then there appears to be a sort of very foggy lighthouse in the background here. I've been enjoying the FujiCast for around 2 years. Can I suggest a guest for you to interview? Street photography is my favourite genre. Alan Schaller. Now, I did smile broadly when he said that because you have tried so often, haven't you, Kev?
Yes, I have. I've emailed Alan a few times.
So we are on the case. If we can't get Alan Schaller, we'll get Alan Shearer. Next best. And I have a question. Do I understand correctly that some European countries have privacy laws that prevent street photographers from walking about and shooting? France, Germany, etc. How is it in the UK? Here in the US, it's legal to walk anywhere that's public and photograph whatever. Now, it's true one can't use the image for advertising unless you have a signed release, but you can post the image and you're in online gallery and even sell the images as a print if you have a mind to. Isn't that then commercial? Anyway, my thanks. Best. No, it's not, because it's not. Yeah, you're not supporting a brand with it. Yeah. Best wishes to you and Kev from John in Brunswick in Maine. Well, the rules in Europe have changed. I mean, the one that I think, and I spoke recently to a friend of ours, Alex Fredrickson, who talks to me about, who spoke to me about what it's like in Austria, and you can't photograph people at all in Austria, at all.
Sad, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know for sure the exact rules. You'll need to check that in different places. But yeah, for example, in Paris, in France, my understanding is you can actually take pictures, but you can't publish them.
Yeah.
If there's other people in there that you have not got your permission, which is ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely ridiculous. When you look at, we've covered this a billion times, photo books, everybody buys photo books because they want to learn about the past. Anyway, it'll go. I'm sure it'll go away. When our kids' generation are the people ruling the world, they will go, that's ridiculous. That idea was ridiculous. It was made up by some stupid bloke who was born in the dark ages, like 1960, and has no idea about life and stuff. So we'll get rid of that idea and we'll replace it with proper ideas.
Sensible ideas.
Yes, and we have to wait for our kids to do that, though.
Yeah. Well, mine have already been talking about how they're going to change the world.
Yeah, good.
I think at the moment the younger one thinks it should be free subways for all.
Well, Albie loves Subway. Absolutely loves it.
They'll be happy then. Anyway, won't they? Right. I think before we have Book of the Week, we've got time for one more Facebook.
Right. Let's do Martin, because otherwise we'll forget.
Yeah. Martin.
Martin Hellard. I see new venues opening, existing venues expanding, and a lot are doing 4, 5 or more weddings a week.
Yes.
I'm not sure figures add up. I realise this year still has leftover postponements, but a lot were cleared last year too. So it will be interesting to see if all this investment in renovations, new accommodation and outdoor ceremony areas was really worth it next year. Oh, it turns out it wasn't even a question.
Well, was he doubting the fact that many could be going on? Because I've gone into venues that are saying we're doing 212 this year. I'm thinking, what, 212?
Yeah, I suppose it's a conversational piece rather than a question. But I mean, the venues. Some of the venues. I went to a new venue in Wales near Barry. Absolutely incredible place it was, and it was like being in Ibiza. It was actually a really nice sunny day as well, which helped. But it was phenomenal. Yeah. And she was the lady that runs it, or the lady that owns it, was saying that they're packing them in at the moment, absolutely packing them in. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot. Well, I say a lot. There was quite a few venues that did not make the pandemic. They went up, and places like what's that place near you? I want to say Stoke Park, or is it the other one next to it?
Stoke Place.
Stoke Place.
No, it's still there.
It's Stoke Place.
That's still there. Stoke Park and Stoke Place. Stoke Park was the one where Dr. No, I think, was filmed.
Stoke Place might have been where Dr. Yes was filmed then.
I think we're just making movies up now, Kev.
It's where what's his name got married, wasn't it? Madonna got married at one of them when she married that fella.
I think that would be Stoke Park.
And also Clooney got married there.
Did he?
At one of them.
No, he was at Danesfield House.
Was he?
I think. I may have this wrong. There's a little bit worrying that I should know about all these weddings that I didn't attend. This is almost like you read Hello magazine, Neil. Is it? Maybe it is. I don't know.
Anyway, yeah. I mean, venues. Yeah. Good luck to the ones that have survived. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. Funny enough though, because somebody was saying to me at a wedding last weekend. Was saying that they have started noticing, and this is quite I wouldn't say it's a kind of wedding factory place, but certainly a place that's, generally is there for weddings rather than open to the public during the week and stuff.
Yeah.
And they were saying that they have started noticing now people saying, we can't afford, we're not going to have the budget we had. We're not, chair covers or whatever it is. They're cutting back because obviously fuel and all of this kind of stuff, And I had an email conversation with somebody who, I sent my prices through, and they replied and they said, well, that's a ridiculous price. That's not the words they use, but they were basically saying everything costs too much. That's just too much. And I did reply to that, and it was the same day that the inflation number had gone up to 9%.
Yours hadn't gone up at all; it had just stayed the same as it was, probably.
Well, that's they did say, not having a go at you is basically the general gist of the conversation, but inflation is at 9%. Is there anything you can do? And I very nearly did reply and say, what I can do is put my prices up by 9%, so I can also afford to live. But I didn't say that, of course. But they didn't book. Needless to say,
George Clooney's wedding, by the way, my mate Richard, who's a pianist, and I'm not sure I should say his surname, but his name is Richard. He played at George's wedding. I think that's why nice. I think it was Danesfield. I might be wrong, but he got an invite, and he didn't know it was going to be George's wedding. And as the date got closer, he got some sort of inkling that this was going on. Well, on the actual day, though, Kev, he played at the event, and then later on in the evening, because he played all the way through to the end, George actually sidles up to him, comes to sit, brings a couple of tumblers of scotch, and sits at the piano with him, starts having a chat. I thought, how cool is that?
That's ace, isn't it?
That is cool.
He must be quite a big pianist.
Why?
All right, I just couldn't resist saying it.
Oh, Kev! Heaven's sakes! Right, let's move on. What were we doing now? I've completely forgotten. Kev's on. You're not going to do this when we're on stage next week, are you? Probably. Let's have the book of the. Should we have the book of the week or second part of the interview? I'll tell you what. Let's go for second part of the interview first, and then we'll come back for
while I compose myself.
Yeah, while you compose yourself.
In my special foot, I got that.
Right. Let's have the second part of our conversation today with Glyn Dewis.
So talk us through briefly, even though with the FujiCast, obviously we're brand agnostic in terms of the guests and everything. So tell us, how, in a nutshell, how do you go about creating one of these beautiful portraits?
I would say it's kept very, very simple. You'll see that from the portraits. It's just a one light setup, real simple. And that my idea behind that was so that I keep the technicals really simple. So that allows me to be comfortable with the setup, meaning I can adapt to my environment because all the portraits are taken at the convenience of the veteran. So they're always at their home. It's not like a luxury of having tons of space in a studio. So you have to really adapt sometimes because some of the places can be very challenging with space. So just one light. There's two lenses that I use. I use an 85mm for the very close-ups, the headshot ones, but the majority of stuff is done on a 55mm. A prime lens. And the reason I use the prime lens is because I found that before, when I was using zoom lenses, you could have looked at my portfolio, and for me it felt like it would have looked, if there was 20 images there, it'd have been 20 different photographers. Right. The fact that I could vary the focal length and change the look of something by varying that focal length, it gave me too many options. So I decided to stick with prime lenses to help my style to develop, if you like.
Yeah. Cohesion, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, just one light, nice and simple. Camera is always on a tripod, always, so that I can maintain eye contact and a connection with the person I'm photographing rather than me going behind it. That's just a personal thing that I found worked for me.
So you're using a Sony full frame camera for this?
Sony, yeah, I'm using a Sony A7R4 is what I'm using.
Okay.
And if long story short, but if I was going to say, let's say if you were a veteran that I was going to come and photograph, I'd turn up at the house and all my kit would stay in the car. I'd then come into the house and we'd have a coffee or tea and we'd just chat, and we could chat for 3/4 of an hour. If I've never met you before, that time is invaluable to getting a good result. It's just the most important part of the whole process. You and me becoming relaxed with each other and comfortable. Once I know that we're comfortable with each other, then I'll go and get the kit. We'll set up in just a little corner somewhere, and it just takes no time at all because I've taken that time to practice it over and over and over and over again. So, it's almost like the photography side of it, taking the portrait, becomes secondary to the reason for me being there. It's almost like I'm just going for a coffee with somebody, but we also do a picture. But I've just learned so much about taking portraits of, for want of a better word, normal people. I don't photograph models. I need to make somebody who's not wanting to be photographed maybe, or not comfortable in front of the camera. I need to make them relaxed. And the way I've learned to do that is just by spending more time talking than picking the camera up.
Yeah. It really is such a powerful I'm just looking at the pictures now, and I've looked at them many times before. But it's actually remarkable because, like the editing, of course, and I think you've got one of your downloadable courses kind of partly based on the editing style.
Yeah, timeless.
Timeless. That's right. But you don't see. You can't see this kind of stuff on Instagram. On Instagram, where people spend most of their lives these days, you see one image, then you move on to another person, another photographer. You don't see them together in a collection like this. And it is just marvelous, absolutely marvelous.
And it needs to be. I mean, I'm hoping there that you can see that if I went to tomorrow to take another portrait of veteran and then showed that, you'd know that came from that collection. Yeah, there's definitely there's a very, it's a similar recognizable kind of style, and the editing is minimal. I mean, really minimal. Yeah. Because the focus isn't the color grading, it's not the sharpness. It's the person, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're all, even like you said, even the close-up ones you do on the 85mm, they're very powerful because you can basically see into their souls almost through their eyes. But then,
yeah. Do you know what? That's a good point as well, Ken, because when we had the exhibition and the pictures were printed really, really quite big and people are walking around. So I was really interested to hear that some people were saying, I was expecting them all to mention about the eyes, it feels like they're staring at you. But so many people mentioned, look at the hands. Yeah. You can really see their life in their hand. And I never really noticed it. It wasn't something I actually paid attention to be honest with you, because I was all for the face. But now I look at them, I think, God, yeah, the hands is so important.
Yeah, and that was the point I was going to make next. The more the wider ones, if you like, where you can see them sat down in chairs and kind of more environmental portraiture, if you like. The hands, they're all holding their hands in similar ways, but slightly different. And you can see like stories etched on their hands, and it does give you a real insight. It really is a
that's
remarkable series.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm not sure whether this is a elephant in the room or not, but artificial intelligence in Lightroom, Photoshop, all of that kind of stuff. Is it a good thing, bad thing? Does it take away some of the skills? What's your take on that?
I think it's a good thing. I really do think it's a good thing. I don't think it replaces for the likes of you and I and people that have make a living from it. I don't think it's going to replace anything. If anything, I think it's going to be a help to us. Artificial intelligence doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to put a picture in and it's finished. There you go. Wow, that's it. I'm job done there, because that would mean that pretty much all our pictures are going to look like everybody else's, and we're going to lose our unique style. The artificial intelligence is basically, it's an assistant. You can use something like Lightroom, not Lightroom Classic, but Lightroom Mobile, for example. You go using a preset in there and you click on the recommended section and it brings up and it'll show you all these different examples of what you can do. You click on one of those. That doesn't mean to say your picture's finished. It's a great starting point. I think things like that, artificial intelligence, is just a way of giving you that nudge to say, why don't you try this? Certainly when it comes to the main editing. Obviously, there are other things like the neural filters now in Photoshop where that is really getting kind of wow. You can change somebody's eye direction, change somebody's facial expression and stuff like that. It all depends what's the end result going to be? What's it for? What's its intended purpose? There's artificial intelligence that allowed me recently. In fact, I got a reminder today. It was you say recently, it's a year ago. I photographed a female surfer down at Saunton Sands in Devon. It was a horrendously bright, beautiful, don't get me wrong, beautiful day. Taking a picture, I had a wetsuit on and I'm way out in the sea beyond the breakers, holding the camera with no waterproof casing on it, just above the level of the water. Guy in the water's with me holding a light above the waves. And we're photographing Holly on this board. Now, I couldn't see the back of the camera, so I couldn't really tell what kind of expressions I was capturing on her at all, or where her eyes were looking, in fact, because it was such an awkward situation. Eye tracking, as you know, all cameras nowadays have got fantastic technology when it comes to tracking. So the eye tracking nailed it. Bring the pictures back, everything was just right apart from the direction of her eyes. She was looking at me. And I don't like it when people in certain poses look straight at the camera. It kind of just didn't have any feel to it. I ideally wanted her to be looking away from it. And I was able to do that using the AI in the neural filters in Photoshop. And it's like, wow, you would never know I'd changed her eye direction. That was my intended purpose for it. The lighting was right. The composition was right. Her eyes were looking at me. Now, was I wrong to use that? I don't think so.
No.
Because I'd done my job as a photographer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The lighting, the composition, the grading's all done. But her eyes were looking at me. So I just changed the direction of the eyes.
Okay. So here's another curveball question for you. A desert island question. Okay. We're coming to the end now. But,
okay.
So you're on a desert island. I'm going to give you 3 things that you have to have just one of. Okay. So one camera that you would have with you, either a camera you own now, you've had in the past, you would love to have had, whatever. One camera that you might have. What would that be?
Okay, this could be a really curveball answer here, but my answer, I think, would be a DJI Pocket 2. Yeah, which captures both video, stills, time lapse, because it's going to allow me to do all the stuff that I love doing in one package, and it's really portable.
Okay, so Lightroom or Photoshop? You can only pick one.
Oh, good question. There was a time very nearby that I would have said Photoshop. Lightroom's just a catalog for me, but Lightroom's come on big time. I'm going to say Lightroom. Yeah. The masking in Lightroom lately is blowing me away.
Yeah, it's insane, isn't it? I can't believe.
Oh my God.
People complain that £9 a month for Photoshop and Lightroom. You know, I'm not paying that. Like,
there's the little things in Lightroom. If you hold down the Option key or the Alt key on your computer, depending on if you're Mac or Windows, you wait to see what things suddenly appear that you didn't know about. It's like, are you serious? Like in the masking, hold down the Option key and wait to see what that does. Okay. It's like, you are joking. It's just, Lightroom's just amazing, and it's getting better and better and better.
Nice. Okay, a photographer. So remember, this is your desert island. So one other photographer who's going to be there with you, alive, dead, somebody you know, somebody you've never met, who would be there with you so you could take your pictures on the DJI and edit them in Lightroom while you're on your desert island.
Who would I want to be there with if it was a photographer? Joel Grimes.
Joel Grimes. Okay.
Joel Grimes, great friend. What you see is what you get. Genuinely a very hard-working, big-hearted, lovely man. Good answers. That was good. So what's next for you, Glyn? What are you doing? What are you working on now? Any kind of workshops, books, all that kind of I'm not really doing workshops. That's something I stopped a while back now. I like doing the stuff online because people can interact with it. They can interact with me and they get what they want from it. Whereas I felt workshops, some people always left not getting what they wanted. Maybe that was me, the way I ran the workshops. But what am I working on? I'm really, really putting a lot of effort into my YouTube channel. I'm really enjoying doing that. And I do have a project I'm going to be working on called Totally Devon, the people, the places and the produce that makes Devon Devon. So that's going to allow me to tour the county, photographing the people, the places and the food that make it what it is. And my goal is in 2 years' time to start having exhibitions around Devon.
And our sincere thanks to Glyn Dewis. Of course, we will link to his website, other information and the YouTube channel, which you will find on the FujiCast show page today. Right. Kev, are you ready? Should we do the book for this month?
Let's do it. We do have Sandra Cattaneo Adorno.
Yes.
Second time. She was a guest, wasn't she? Remember?
Was. Yeah.
On the podcast. I think, was that during lockdown? Might have been. Can't remember.
Well, her book came out during lockdown, yeah.
Her book did, yes. Yeah. I can't remember whether we spoke to her or
no, we did, yeah, because it all happened at the same time. Because she's really sort of stacking all this together in the what you might call the twilight years of her life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a lovely interview. So she has sent me the copy of a pre-copy, so it's available for pre-order now of her new book. Yeah. And this one is called Scarti Di Tempo. Do you know what Scarti means in Italian?
I don't. You're going to tell me though.
It means scraps.
All right. It sounds so much nicer though in Italian, doesn't it? Scraps.
Everything sounds nicer in Italian, doesn't it?
Sounds so much nicer, doesn't it, in Italian? Yeah. Everything sounds nicer in Italian.
Absolutely. Yeah, because spaghetti means chips.
No. That's nonsense.
Right. So while on press for her second book, Agua di Oro, which is one we did review before and spoke to her about, Sandra Cattaneo Adorno noticed the brightly coloured metal plates used to make test proofs. The plates, called Scarti, here we go, Italian for scraps, showed her photographs as monochromes in shocking pink, bright yellow, royal blue and black, evoking the spirit of Andy Warhol. A jolt of recognition coursed through her veins as Cattaneo Adorno realized the curious way in which photography can be used to preserve and rearrange fragments of time. When the pandemic brought the world to a standstill in March 2020, Cattaneo Adorno noticed time began moving in strange ways, stretching endlessly into some unknown beyond, but if not preserved, disappearing from memory as though it never occurred. She began to feel as though she was accumulating scraps of time, layering upon itself.
I see.
Determined to give this experience a form, Cattaneo Adorno began traveling through the inner space of her imagination, delving through her archive. She began collaging otherwise unrelated images to create a series of new work that blurs the boundaries of reality and illusion as a metaphor for the mind. So that's the blurb on the website. And the book, I have to say the book is beautiful. And so I would call this, we've had a few books where I've been reluctant to actually call them photo books. And this is probably one of them. I would say this is more mixed media, definitely art. And it's kind of a interpretation, as it says there in the blurb, of, the individuality that Sandra is seeing in these pictures. It's absolutely phenomenally put together. It's got some fine leaf pages with text where she describes her thought process in kind of creating these artworks. It's got pages that kind of fold in on themselves and everything. It's a really beautifully structured book, and it's got pages that will fold out to just become huge kind of triptychs and various things like that. But the actual images themselves are ones that I find myself, when I was looking at it last week, I have to look at in quite some detail before I realize actually what it was. And then the way that I was approaching it was looking at the images and then reading the context, if there is any, for that particular image. But it's beautiful, and it is Andy Warhol. The reference to Andy Warhol makes sense because there are some real kind of collages of clashes of colors, and this kind of riot of color, red, blues, specifically greens, and these purples that you mentioned that come through in the print in the plates. As much as it is about these kind of pieces of artwork, I would say it's as much about the structure of the book and the narrative within it, and and by that I mean the kind of text that she's written. And often it's just very, very simple quotes. So, for example, this one here: "Mirror is light, remove its frame, and it grows like spilling water." It really is beautiful.
Poetry,
but like I say, it's
poetry.
Poetry. It's not something that you're going to pick up and think of as an inspiration book. You're not going to pick this up and think, what am I going to do next for my project? I think specifically Sandra is a very, very talented visionary, if you like. So she's putting these books together now without any kind of prejudice, as I think you alluded to at the beginning, where kind of said she makes no apologies, and quite rightly, that she's kind of come to photography late, and this time it's gone beyond photography. It's become a really, really lovely piece of art. And I think this is a coffee table book that you're going to pop that on your table. People are going to pick that up and they're going to think, that is beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Well, I loved the story that she only got into photography because her daughter took her to a photography course. They both went together to do a sort of daughter-mum thing. And she ended up being an international photographer. That's right.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story. Sandra, she has a lovely kind of background. And she's she's doing what all of us want to do, isn't she? Yeah. She's getting out there, she's seeing something, and she's making something from it.
And making a book.
Making something tactile, which is beautiful. Very beautiful indeed.
So it's available when?
July 2022. I'm sure it'll be available in all of the online places, but you can pre-order it right now, radiusbooks.org, $60.
And we will have a link for it, of course, on the show page. So
we will. You can get a signed version.
Oh, can you?
Presumably only while there's pre-orders.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a really beautiful book.
Okay, back to your questions. Was it your turn or mine, Kev?
Yours.
This
definitely.
is from Ross Adams. Dear Kev and Neil, thank you for an invaluable source of info. I moved to Copenhagen from Cornwall to be close to my sins, my sons, he says. Damn you, spell check. It's a tricky culture to integrate with, but thanks to your show, I discovered the 100 Strangers Project, which has become a social passport, and it's helped an introvert to connect with new people, both native and international. It must be very hard, mustn't it, moving to a new country and having to sort of navigate that, sort of connecting with people all over. I have an X-H2 and a Fujinon 35mm. I'm currently saving for a wider angle lens and will use them for sound/photo projects, which will be focused on what's this? In Java, which will be focused on a Gamelan Master Builder, as well as the 100 Strangers project. Kev, he's speaking your language now.
What, Master Builder?
The Java thing.
Oh, Java, the development language. Sorry. Yes, I thought you meant Java, the place.
No, Kev.
So that's a nice place to go. Yes, Java, yes.
Yeah. Could you share your thoughts anyway on the 23F2 and 27F2.8? Because I'm deciding between them. Which should I have? Best wishes, Ross.
Well,
you'd probably just say go for an 18.
Yeah, I would say 23 if there was a choice. The 27 has its place. It's a nice little pancake lens, and it's very small. Doesn't have an aperture ring. I would still go 23.
Would you?
I think just on the balance of things.
Yeah. Okay.
You can always take one step back.
Right, yours from Facebook, from the book from the Book of Face.
From the Book of Face, right? Okay, so we have. Well, here we go. This is an interesting. It's similar to the point we had earlier, and this is. I was also Andy Stonia. God, blimey, greedy Andy. Discussion point, really. Should have put that in front of the last one. James O'Brien on LBC. James O'Brien.
Oh, one of my favourite, or my favourite broadcasters.
LBC today was discussing the ONS figures. ONS, for those who don't know, is the
Office of National
Statistics, where my mum and my sister and my niece.
Do they work?
My mum worked there.
Work.
It was called the BSO in those days.
Oh, is it? Right.
British Statistics Office. But yeah, my sister and my niece
right.
Still there. Anyway, ONS figures for the decline in marriages and being the lowest since records began. So with fewer weddings and seemingly more photographers, what is the future? And there was a couple of people who jumped in onto that post.
Well, what did they say? I'd be interested.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was worth picking it up. James Souls, who we spoke about earlier, he said, I just listened to this and I'm already thinking about how to diversify a little more. Steve Vaughan, I'd add to that, with inflation at a 40-year high and discretionary spending for households getting squeezed, we will see less and or lower cost weddings as a result. So yeah, ultimately you're always going to have rich people, aren't you, who are going to spend more money. You know, the world is geared that way, unfortunately, all around the world, not just in this country, but you know, sadly, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and that margin gets squeezed everywhere. Am I worried about it? No. Are you worried about it, Neil?
No, but then I'm having these conversations with the sort of venues I go to that are all saying we've got 200 weddings a year. And I did go through, well, that's the COVID sort of, and then no, we got 200 next year. Most of those are brand new bookings. Weddings are happening. And I do think quality, if you're a good quality wedding photographer with a fair price and you market well, business will come to you. I'm not into I can't get into the catastrophizing stage yet.
No,
and I'm listening. I do get what Steve's saying, but I'm kind of thinking, I don't know if I can sit on the seat of doom and gloom, because I after the last 2 years, I don't know. Is it a bit head and sang?
Well, I think this comes up and around all the time, doesn't it? I mean, I set my business up, and you set yours up and rode through the last proper depression.
I'm going to say, it wasn't a depression; it was a recession. But it was a nasty recession. And we both set up in that time. Yeah, and you know, as I said, I did speak to that venue who said that people are definitely trying to cut back a little bit. Yeah. But for everybody who does cut back, there's going to be people who don't need to cut back. You know, and I think you're spot on there, Neil. You know, if you essentially got to market at the people that you need, you want, and that does ultimately come down to fair pricing and service and all of that stuff. I think. By the way, when you say more wedding photographers, I hear people saying that they're leaving.
I would say there's probably less now. Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah. I mean, I know in some groups that I'm in, there's been a lot of people who not just did not survive, their business did not survive the pandemic, but actually, they got through the pandemic and they thought, no, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. Same for I know of 2 or 3, I don't want to say the names in case they wouldn't want me to, but 2 or 3 reasonably well-heeled portrait photographers have said, my heart's not in it anymore.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think they're probably, on a balance, there probably is less, maybe the same as before. I don't think that there's particularly more wedding photographers out there. But yeah, I mean, these things come and go, don't they? It's inflation. I think, when it comes to the inflation stuff, the last thing I'm worrying about, well, it is a little worry, but the last thing I'm worrying about that is more about when my mortgage comes up for renewal next year, what the mortgage rates be at. They've been on a great rate for the last, all of us have been on a great rate for the last 5 years. Yeah. They'll be like, yes, your mortgage payments are 6 times more than they used to be.
Okay. Well, we have a question here from Will Collin, which has been languishing and it's been sort of in the email box for so long. It's sort of started playing games going up and down the order. So, Will, I'm so sorry about this, but I think you'd sent in the question a few times, particularly when we said there's no more unanswered questions in the email box, and there was Will's just waiting to be read. What was it titled? XC versus XF lenses. Do you remember that question?
Yeah, XC versus XF lenses, yeah.
Yeah, and the one editing how much is too much. Well, first, let's take XC versus XF lenses. What would you buy, Kev?
XC are the kind of cheaper plastic ones. Perfectly good if you're, kind of not a professional photographer and you're on a budget. They will be perfectly good for you. Yep. But for me, I would go for the XF, weather sealed and stronger and all that stuff. And
on editing, how much is too much? Which is a very good question, Will, actually, because I do see a lot of overly processed stuff, almost heading back towards this high def look.
I don't know, really. Ultimately, it's up to you, isn't it? You edit it until you're happy with it, I guess. And if people stop buying it, then you've probably done it a bit too much.
There's some of the new Lightroom features, which are fantastic, by the way. I mean, that ability now to pull just the sky out, and it does all the masking pretty well. It's not fantastic when you've got very intricate branches and sometimes around the leaves. It's not easy. I mean, for heaven's sakes, it's doing an amazing job as it is. But that's enabled people to get really moody with their skies, which doesn't always work because you notice around the roofs and the trees, there's the artifacts of where it hasn't really worked. So you have to be a little bit careful. I still think subtlety is important. Just because you can now mask a sky at the touch of a button doesn't mean you need to make it look really dramatic.
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean,
be careful of that stuff like that. Yeah, and colouring skies.
Yeah, but ultimately, isn't it? It's everything's subjective, isn't it?
It is.
But yeah, I agree with you about the skies and everything, of course. But some people like that very kind of Instagrammy, filtery type look. Yeah. Some people don't.
Thank you, Will. I think we've got time for one more, Kev. One more, and then we're on the live show. And I'm saving some of these for the live shows. Although we're going to be going to the floor quite a lot, aren't we?
So, we will be, yeah. So bring your questions. Those who are coming, bring your questions with you.
Yeah.
Is it my question then?
Yeah, it's the last one, Kev.
Okay. Ben Wagner.
M. Wagner.
Ben Wagner.
N. Wagner.
Ben.
N. For who? Neville.
What?
I don't know. N. Wagner.
Ben Wagner.
Well, let's not fall out over his name.
Ben Wagner. Well, who's Neville?
I don't know. What does the N stand for?
I never said N.
I thought you did.
No, I said Ben.
Oh, Ben.
Oh, God.
I tell you what, I'm going to have real trouble at our after party next week. I tell you why, because when I go to a pub now, I don't know, has this happened? I don't know, maybe Kev, I've got a few years on you, not many, but a few years. But I have noticed over the last maybe year and a bit that in a pub now, I just... And if we go to the pub next week and you're looking at me and I don't appear to be answering you, it's because I just can't hear you.
Really?
Because I'm not able to focus on the shouting coming toward me. Everything's now a mush.
That's not very good for somebody who's into audio like you.
Well, that's why I wear my headphones progressively louder.
Anyway, Ben Wagner.
Yes.
Not Neville. Not N, but Ben.
Does he have a brother called Neville then? Where did Neville come in?
Neville Wagner. This year I've decided to get into Photofilm game, as it's not something I've seen offered by other wedding photographers in my area.
Good.
I love it when they refer to it as a game. I've decided to get into the Photofilm game.
I tell you what, it's not a game. It'll take you ages.
And I think it could be a differentiator for me in my market. Yes. I have a background in both audio and video production, so I'm curious as to how you two edit your photo films. Is it a matter of culling the finished JPEGs and dumping them into Premiere and adding sound? Do you have a template you use? How do you do this efficiently? I'll leave that one up to you because you do a far better job of it than I do.
Well, we both do it in a slightly different way. I do put the sound on a timeline. Yes, I use Premiere, by the way. Other editing systems are available and just as good, I'm sure. I usually start with the sound, actually. I usually start with the music, put the music soundtrack down and then start to weave in the audio that I've cut, taking about, 15, 20 seconds, sometimes a little bit longer excerpts from the different speakers, and then I work in the pictures above it. That's the workflow that I have: music, speech, and pictures above. But it's a long-winded thing, Kev. I mean, every single image that's put in has to match to the beat of the music, and so that's a manual process for me. And using it's the N key, isn't it? So you can actually move the edit point around. Then sometimes you have to readjust it a little bit as you're going along. So it does. I reckon the first one will take you a couple of days. Then after a while, you'll be at about a day for a photo film.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's similar to me, basically. When I'm doing those kind of photo films, I mean, in most cases for my wedding clients now, I just do it. PicTime does it all for me. But if I'm doing a kind of promotional one or something like that, I'll use Premiere. But I don't do them in the same way that I don't have the recorded audio and all that.
Well, yeah, it's a different thing. You're essentially doing a supercharged slideshow in some, not to sound rude, but that's but specifically when you're doing your those brilliant ones you do, Kev, where it goes fast motion. What's it called? Are they your photo films as well? Do you call those photo films?
Yeah,
stop motion ones.
I just called everything a photo film.
Even
one picture.
One size fits all. Well, good luck. I mean, yes, you are right. It's I think, there are, what's that equation of effort equals something times something equals loads of money. Yeah, quadruple
all your effort equals H.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, H.
No. What you put in, you get out, basically. Yeah. But it does take a while to do that kind of thing. But if you get into the photo film game, as you're calling it, then you will. You'll stick out in the crowded marketplace, as you call it. And that's it for this week. Thank you to our guest Glyn Dewis and Sandra Cattaneo Adorno. We will have the book details on the show page, so you can go and pre-order. It's nice actually if you get a signed one, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, beautiful.
If you want to send your questions in by Facebook, Kev, how do we do that? Fill us in.
Go to the FujiCast Facebook group, which currently has 2,600 members, all of whom are very, very nice. We're all on first name terms. And there's a thread pinned to the top. It's called Questions for the Show thread.
Yep. And if you want to email them in, then you can send them to click@fujicast.co.uk. Now, we look forward to seeing you next week. Remind us, I know not everybody's coming, so just a little bit of housekeeping here. What time do we start? The photo walk is where we start, isn't it? And that start, you said about 11 o'clock, yeah?
Yeah, I will be sending an email out to everybody because it may be, I don't know, we might have to stagger it or so. I don't know. I will be sending an email out because, of course, because it's free, we don't know how many people will actually turn up, because there's no kind of financial investment, so people may just wake up in the morning and go,
I don't fancy it. It's raining. Yeah.
So we'll see. But yes, I will send an email out to all of those who are registered, of which there are still registrations available.
And if you're coming, we look forward to seeing you. Thank you to Blue Wednesday for our music, supporting music from the incredible artlist.io. And we will see you next month. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.